Hey guys, it's Carrie, and I want to talk all about names today, and specifically like what kind of considerations go into your name when you are genderqueer and non-binary, and thinking about whether or not you're going to change your name or keep your name or go by a nickname or what you're going to do to have a name that expresses your gender and yourself. So, this is also your warning that I have absolutely zero focus right now. I'm trying to drink coffee and get it together, but no promises. So, I really love names. I think names are fascinating. I've always had kind of a fascination with names in general. I think that they really can kind of describe a person's like demeanor, or sometimes even like something about like them physically, the way they look. I don't know, like names are just really cool to me. You can see my super rad bike in the background. My bike's name is Seamus. Like, I like names. I'm about naming things. So when I went through my process of like trying to decide, before I like came out to everyone, I spent a lot of time trying to figure out like what my gender really was and what pronouns were going to really be the pronouns I was comfortable with. And part of that process was also thinking about my name, and if my name was something I was happy with, if I wanted to change, how I wanted people to view it. In the long run, I ended up keeping my name, and Carrie happens to be a gender neutral name. And granted, depending on how you spell it, and to some extent like how old you are, you may view it differently, because you don't see as many boys with that name as you did. Like, I'm pretty sure my generation was when it really tapered off for boys to use that name. But whatever, it's a gender neutral name and I like it. And I ended up actually telling people I've always liked 3 specific spellings of this name. So there's the Carrie, like Cary Grant, the Carrie, like the horror movie Carrie, and the last name Carrie with a C. Not John Carey, the other Carrie with a C. So if you spell my name one of those 3 ways, we're good. I spell it all 3 of those ways, just depending on my mood and the moment that I have to write it down or type it out or whatever. I like all 3 of those, and that's fine for me. And that's ultimately what I came to do, because I would like go through lists of gender neutral names, and there'd be names that I loved, I'd like the meaning of, the way they look, the way they sound, like everything about them, and then I would like try to spend a few seconds applying them to myself, and it just like nothing felt right. When you don't figure out your gender or transition until you're in your 30s, you've had a long time to get comfortable with your name. I may have gone about things differently had I figured it out like as a kid or a teenager, but at the same time, like, all of my names have some very specific family connotations that I also like, and I'm pretty sure I still would have wanted to keep, at least to some level. So you can do whatever you want with your name. If you really like a kind of more unique name, or a name people aren't really familiar with, or that's spelled differently, or stands out, or is odd, or anything like that, people are going to ask you about it, or they're going to comment on it, and not even in like a rude kind of way, just in a curious way. Like, I would ask questions or comment on it. In fact, one of my good friends who happens to be trans, I know him because we worked together years ago, but at the time he was stealth and I was not out to me, which was fine, but he had made a comment about and he has kind of an unusual name. He made a comment about how his mom could never pronounce his name correctly, and I responded with something about his mom giving him that name, so she should know how to pronounce it. And it became this really awkward moment, and at the time I didn't know why. Now I know why, and it's hilarious. But be prepared that those things will happen if you have a somewhat unusual name. So what if you are trying to be more stealth, or just more traditional, or you don't want to deal with it? You have the choice of choosing very, very gender neutral names, like Riley and Jamie come to mind. But at the same, see, I have no focus. Like, one of my favorite names that I actually did like briefly consider for 5 seconds was Declan, but I am pretty certain that's actually technically just a guy's name. But to me it sounds and looks gender neutral, and I really like it. And if a girl told me her name was Declan, I wouldn't think 2 things about it, you know? If you would like to be a bit more traditional, some of the best advice I've seen other people give is to look up like baby name websites for the year you were born, because you can look at the most popular names for that year, and maybe like a couple years before or after you were born, that will give you traditional names that are age appropriate. Because there are some names that might be common now among like 10-year-olds, but if I chose that name, it would seem a little odd. because of the age difference. So I think that can be a really helpful place to start. If you are out and comfortable with your family, I have also heard advice from other people that I won't take credit for, asking your family like what other names they thought of naming you when you were born. I'm gonna warn you, I know the other names my family considered for me, and they were all horrible, terrible names I would never consider. So be prepared for that, and if you ask them for that advice, you be prepared to either take it or just flat out tell them that they have terrible taste in names and you don't like them. So just, that's the thing that can happen. And then, so like, let's say you have some names, but you're not certain. The best thing really to do is probably have some like family and or friends that you're close to and trust, like give them like maybe your top 5 and say like, I can't decide, like ask them what they think fits you or doesn't fit you. Have them use all the names with you, like just see what you respond to, what feels correct, whatever. But ultimately, don't feel like you have to change your name if you don't want to change it. And if you want to change your name, even if I've known trans people with birth names that were very gender neutral, like I'll use Jamie again as an example, who still chose to change their name. That's some alliteration right there. Because it just was still associated to them with the wrong gender. And so that's totally valid too. Like at the end of the day, it's about what is gonna feel right for you and represent yourself and help people see you how you want to be seen, but also help you feel like the person that you want to be. So I hope that made sense. I don't think this video exactly went in any direction that I thought it was going to go, but hopefully it gave you some insight. And if you have questions or comments about names, if you just want to talk about names in general, like I said, I think they're fascinating and I could just talk about them at length. So you can do that in the comments. Yeah,